how are the banks responding to the needs of SMEs? And what solutions are out there? I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we rewind back to when we first started out in 2012, there was very little back then. It was the big four banks really. There weren't really any alternative lenders that were accessible to people. And has it changed? Yes, it really has. There are a lot more options now, but there is still a huge funding gap. So, if you kind of look at the market now compared to then, there are a lot of alternative finance providers, things like peer-to-peer lenders, various different kind of specific lenders who work in different ways. So you have like short-term lenders who do high-interest short-term loans. You have the peer-to-peer lenders who tend to do larger amounts over long periods. I won't mention the brand names. I don't want you to have to edit them out. But the problem is that you find, though, as the markets become more established, and certainly a lot of the large brand peer-to-peer lenders and alternative finance providers now, as they get bigger and they get more and more external investment, and they get the kind of private equity guys coming in, their focus becomes more and more and more on maximising their profit, and inevitably that means that they want to take less and less and less risk. Their lending becomes a lot more algorithmic driven. And in all honesty, it becomes not much easier than getting a loan from a big bank. Of course, there are still lots of smaller lenders out there, but there's still a big segment of people that are underserved. I mean, is it better than it was 10 years ago? Yeah, it's better, but we've got a long way to go yet.
In sort of 2015, 2016, the rise of neobanks came up. It's very quickly, it became a household name, neobanks, out of nowhere, really. Neobanks, in short, are effectively challenger banks that are there to disrupt the current financial system, offer digital alternatives, mostly digital solutions to customers and businesses, and have a very niche space in the market. People view them, I think, as sort of saviors, if you like. They're coming in to help the system, increase competition, offer loans, offer better banking services. I use Starling for my small business for a current account, and it's brilliant. For KYC and everything, it took less than a day for the whole KYC process to complete, versus the big banks, which can take weeks. So I certainly understand the niche benefit. But in terms of actual SME support, other than current accounts, what's been your experience of challenger banks like Starling, Monzo, Revolut, which isn't a bank, but what's your experience been of them?
So in all honesty, I think you've kind of nailed the main benefits there. So you've got what they call themselves challenger banks, and effectively they're basically banking apps, aren't they? They've cut out all the branches, and they've kind of doubled down on having everything online. Now, I think, it's great that you can, if you start a new business or you want a new business account, you can literally download an app and you can have it all set up, all your KYC done and passed within a couple of hours, and have an account ready for you the next day. Versus, back when we first started, it would take you, like, as you say, weeks. You'd have to apply on paper. You have to take it into the branch, whether it's photocopy your ID, and maybe 3 weeks later, if you got approved, you'd have a bank account, which was a massive pain. And I think they've addressed that very well. However, in terms of other support, I don't think they have much to offer beyond, at the moment, certainly beyond current accounts and the expedited process for starting them up. But certainly no notable products that I'm aware of that they're kind of bringing to the market that's changing the market.
We're talking about the SME current accounts and helping them like that. If I said to you Monzo's latest annual report, so Monzo, the challenger bank in the UK, their latest annual report, how many times do you think they mentioned SMEs in their annual report? Considering SMEs are 99% of the UK business population, how many times do you think the annual report mentioned SMEs? Have a guess.
I'm gonna take a guess and say it's very few, maybe like 0 or 1.
Absolutely no mention of SMEs in that annual report.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. It is, and I think it's beyond just the fact that I'm aware of. None of them really offer any financing facilities for SMEs. They don't offer much in terms of other support as well. I mean, people get on the back of the big banks because they don't lend to small businesses in the way they should, which they don't. But they do, in fairness to them, like some of the big names like Barclays have some quite good support schemes out there for people. Resources and information and things you can kind of study online. I don't think the neobanks, in all honesty, there's a lot of hot air there. I think they're bringing a great kind of progression in the sense that of the KYC and the automation of all that, and the fact you can have it on your phone and all that kind of thing. But really, is that something that makes such a critical difference to businesses? Because like with personal accounts, once you have a business bank account, it's very rare that you're going to change it. I mean, we've had the same business account for the last 12 years. And it's kind of a small problem, but it's not anywhere near on the scale of the problem of not being able to access financing when you need it. And that's kind of what the market needs to address, really. And I don't think that they're doing very little from what I've seen to address that.
Well, Starling gives some context there. In 2021, they did 2.2 million of SME lending, which sounds fantastic. 2.1 million of that was the government-backed loan scheme, which which was pushed on the banks, and the banks had no risk whatsoever because it was the government credit.
It's about credit rating, wasn't it? 100% credit. Yeah,
there's 0% risk in terms of risk-weighted assets. So for banks, they have something called RWAs, which are risk-weighted assets. Now, these risk-weighted assets make up and decide what allocation of capital they need and all this in order for them to meet their regulatory ratios called Basel ratios. So banks care a lot about risk-weighted assets. And in fact, when I was at HSBC a few years ago, and don't worry, I wasn't depressed just because I'm saying that. Now, HSBC as an employer was brilliant, but wasn't doing everything it could to help small businesses as the big banks aren't. But when I was at HSBC, there was a big drive in my last year there to handle the risk-weighted assets and fix their RWA positions because they realised their capital wasn't sufficient to match their RWAs. So banks care a lot about it. So the governments were saying 0% risk, we need you to lend to SMEs. So of course, the banks, Starling and stuff, easy. Just apply online, digital solution. There you are, apply online. Fantastic offering for SMEs. For that single purpose. But 5% of the total amount was actual SME lending. So nothing. Now
very little.
23. Since 2021 to 2023, would you estimate the lending has gone up or down?
With neobanks, I'd estimate it's gone down dramatically because, as you say, it's it was a government scheme. It was
exactly. So again, 95% of the outstanding loans are government-backed loans, and I think it's gone down to about 1.4 million now. So what that's actually showing is, even though yes, there was a push in 2021 thanks to government support, since then there hasn't been a push by the bank to do SME lending. It's just unwinding the existing loans that are outstanding.